Welcome to Conrad Beaslow's house. His house is among several of the surviving buildings at the Ephrata Cloister site. It's a very important house because Conrad Beasley was pretty much the most important guy in this um, utopia. And Conrad Beasley would study and he would write in private and he would hold gatherings and he will welcome his guests here. And so, yeah. This here is the sisters' house, and it was constructed in 1743 for householder couples who left their homes to live as celibate brothers and sisters. Later it was remodeled to accommodate the sisterhood, who would call themselves the Roses of Sharon, and each of the building's three main floors contains a kitchen, a room for eating, two common workrooms, and about 12 sleeping chambers, one chamber for each sister. And for nearly 15 years, Mother Maria Eicher directed the sisters' daily routines and maintained their independence from the Brotherhood. This building is very important because the sisterhood was a very important part of the community. Hello, this is the meeting house right here. It's also called a saal, and the sisterhood would use this saal for the most part because the Brotherhood had their own saal. And the entire congregation used this meeting house on Mount Zion for their Saturday worship, and the worship would consist of scripture readings and lessons and also music. And there were special fellowship gatherings which were called love feasts, and they would celebrate the coming of Christ with feet washing, a meal, and the Eucharist with bread and wine. Well, as the solitary population shrank in the 1770s, the householders took a more active part in daily work, and they probably added the stone kitchen to the rear of the building as a place to prepare their love feasts. Well, here I am inside a weaver's house, and it probably contained a lot of work for the members of the Ephrata community. Flax, which is the source of linen, was planted by the brothers, and pretty much everybody helped to harvest and clean the fiber. Both the brothers and the sisters spun the linen thread, while the weaving of cloth was only for the males. And seamstresses and tailors among the community would sew the white robes. Here's the academy, and it was opened to the householders in 1837 as a private school for their children and those of the area. The tradition of teaching school at Ephrata, it dates back to the mid-1700s when Brother Obed would conduct lessons just for the neighborhood children. And most of the teachings would focus on reading, writing, and arithmetic. And in the 1840s, there was a teacher named Joseph Wiggins who also offered chemistry, measuring, surveying, and astronomy. In the mid-1800s, the building became a public school serving several generations of students, until it finally closed in 1926. Well, here we are at the burial ground called God's Acre. This is where Conrad Beasley was buried, along with other solitary and householders. But a lot of the graves don't even contain a marker on them, and the earliest marked grave was from 1767, and the last burial was in 1961. Here we are at the bakehouse, and this bakehouse and the kitchen were a very busy place for the community while it was in operation, because pretty much every person ate about a pound of bread each day, and loaves of bread weighed about 4 pounds each. So there was a lot of bread being made every single day, and the process took a while, so this building was a nice place to have to work on that. And Brother Amos would serve as the community's baker for many years, and well, visitors reported that he made a very delicious bread. Here we are inside the physician's house, and it probably contained a cupboard holding just a few books and homemade herbal remedies, along with a bed for the comfort of the sick. Brother Gideon and Samuel Eckerlin both called themselves practitioners and physic, but they weren't really doctors. I mean, their training was minimal, and their cures may or may not have helped those in distress. Visitors to the community said that the members were thin and pale all the time, but they seemed healthy. But unfortunately, the members of Ephrata Cloister had very poor sanitation, and they didn't bathe very often, so that probably didn't help with their health at all. Here we are at the small bakehouse, which would just serve as a place for just seasonal chores like candle making, soap making, and just laundry. This is Bethania, which was the brothers' house. It was built in 1746 and stood until 1908. It was a four-story building, and it had kitchens, eating areas, workrooms, and sleeping chambers. And it was pretty much a lot like the sister's house. And most likely, the Brotherhood printing operation was carried on inside this house.